A mid-80s comedy movie that melded time travel and nostalgia. It became a huge success, spawned 2 sequels, and then that was it. And yet it never really went away.
You're gonna see some serious shit.
Decades later, it's as popular as ever and has even managed to make an automotive orphan car into an icon. Let's look at the Back to the Future trilogy. By the early 80s, director Robert Zemeckis and his writing and producing partner Bob Gale had created 2 films that were generally liked, but did about as well at the box office as I did in 9th grade mathematics. D-, must try harder. Go fuck yourself, Mr. David. Who needs to know how to count? I've got fingers, and when do you ever need to count above 12? Anyway. A high school reunion sparked the idea of discovering what your parents were like as teenagers, and from there, the idea blossomed into a fully fledged story about time travel. Fine, green light it, make a mint. But actually, it took a long time to get people interested, like an audiobook of Richard Nixon reading Lady Chatterley's Lover.
It's terrible once you've got a man into your blood, she said.
Zemeckis and Gale, also known as the Bobs, or Bob 1 and Bob 2, or possibly even Bob Prime and Bob Major, had a good working relationship with Steven Spielberg, but at the same time, they'd already made several flops for him, and they didn't want to tempt fate by making another bomb together.
I just don't think I could take that kind of rejection.
The Bobs wanted to try and do their own thing, and got nowhere. When we say flops, sure, Used Cars has gained its admirers over the years, but Zemeckis and Gale had also been party to one of Spielberg's biggest bloody noses of his career, and no, we're not talking about a suborbital flight gone wrong. They had co-written 1941, an expensive World War II set screwball comedy that confusingly came out in 1979, and at the time became Spielberg's worst received and least profitable film. If you want to know why Spielberg rarely does comedies, this is why. Also, if you watch Ready Player One and think, wow, Spielberg really can't make a worse film than this, watch 1941 and get back to me. Anyway, I always preferred the sequel, 1942. In 1984, Zemeckis directed the hit comedy adventure film Romancing the Stone and was now hot in Hollywood, which meant the time was right for Bob A and Bob B to go back to Spielberg, possibly known as Bob C, for consistency and to save money on name tags. They took him up on his offer to make Back to the Future at Universal through Spielberg's production company Amblin. Well, after all that, Back to the Future was finally happening.
I'm from the future. I came here in a time machine that you invented. Now I need your help to get back to the year 1985.
The script was sharpened and refined. The time machine was now a car, and they just needed a location, a cast, and a lot of luck in order to get it all done in time for its release date in summer 1985. A year that would see the film have to go up against a lot of well-regarded films, such as highbrow Oscar bait titles such as Police Academy 2, European Vacation, and, ironically enough, a teen comedy about a boy who turns into a wolf.
My mother would freak out if she knew I was going up there with you, and I get the standard lecture about how she never did that kind of stuff when she was a kid. Look, I think the woman was born a nun.
In Back to the Future, teenager Marty McFly is documenting the latest project of his friend, eccentric inventor Doc Brown.
Are you telling me that you built a time machine out of a DeLorean?
After Doc Brown is seemingly killed by some unhappy customers, Marty is flung back in time 30 years and accidentally gets in the way of his parents' meeting.
Safe and sound now, back in good old 1955.
1955? You're my mom.
With the help of the younger Doc Brown from 1955,
A portable television studio.
Marty tries to reunite his parents before he disappears from existence and get it all done in time for his narrow return window to get back to the future.
Whoa, this is heavy.
There's that word again, heavy. Why are things so heavy in the future? Is there a problem with the Earth's gravitational pull?
Of course, it's more than just that. Marty's mother, Lorraine, as a teenager has a serious thirst for her future son, Marty, which is distinctly at odds with Marty's own memories of his mother 30 years hence. And George McFly is like a broken showerhead. Drip, drip, drip. There's the other spanner in the works, the local bully Biff, who's got it in for the McFlys in general, both senior and junior, while at the same time thinking Lorraine should be his girl. That's a series of awkward Thanksgivings right there, like trying to work out which kid bought head lice as a present to the birthday party.
We're sending you back to the future!
Michael J. Fox is now synonymous with the role of Marty McFly, but he wasn't originally able to appear in the film since he was tied to his hit TV series Family Ties. The series had made Fox a star and gotten Michael J. Fox his first starring role in the feature film Teen Wolf. The Bobs went with their next choice for Marty, Eric Stoltz, and principal photography went ahead for 5 weeks before Zemeckis realised something was really wrong with the movie. The Stoltz version of Marty was too intense. The comedic sensibility that the film needed was missing. Like Buddy Holly, jokes did not land as anticipated. In a flurry of activity, Stoltz was quickly let go, and Zemeckis and Gale did a deal with Family Ties to let Michael J. Fox work at nights and weekends on the film, so long as the TV show got what it needed from Fox. So who's Ubu now, motherfucker? Despite the punishing schedule ahead of him, Fox leapt at the chance. The cast and crew collectively shrugged and carried on filming with Fox.
Please excuse the crudity of this model. I didn't have time to build it to scale or to paint it.
Despite the extra cost involved in scrapping existing footage, the production barely missed a beat. Scenes with Stoltz on camera were reshot with Fox and the film was finally shaping up as Zemeckis and Gale had intended. If ever a film could demonstrate the value of getting casting right, it's Back to the Future.
I'm your density.
Back to the Future is a film buzzing with energy all over the place, from the script to the direction and the cast. It never sags, and despite the slightly complicated plot devices, the film always makes you aware of what you need to know.
As long as you hit that wire with a connecting hook at precisely 88 miles an hour, the instant the lightning strikes the tower, everything will be fine.
It's a film that does info dumps perfectly, an absolute masterclass in setting the scene. Christopher Lloyd excels in his role as Doc Brown, who with a look or throwaway line can set up several scenes or sell a simple joke like no one else.
Wow, this is a radiation suit.
Radiation suit. Of course. Because of all the fallout from the atomic wars.
Michael J. Fox, who, despite a long career in TV and films, could never get away from Marty McFly, since he is so perfect in the role.
Get out of town. I didn't know you did anything creative.
Vulnerable, a smartass, patient, the audience can't help but root for Marty to get back home.
It's all a dream. It's just a very intense dream.
Leah Thompson as multiple versions of Lorraine is pitch perfect.
Jesus, you smoke too?
Marty, you're beginning to sound just like my mother.
Crispin Glover's nervous energy defined Marty's future father, George, who for most of the film is the most put-upon human on the planet, like whoever has to collect all the submerged supermarket shopping carts dumped in the creek.
Yeah, but I've never picked a fight in my entire life.
Look, you're not going to be picking a fight, Dad. Daddy-o.
Thomas Wilson's Biff, however, proved to be far more important to the series in the long run.
What are you looking at, butthead?
In this film, he's really good as the archetypal high school bully.
You realize what would happen if I hand in my homework in your handwriting? I'll get kicked out of school.
Someone who's mean for the sake of being mean.
Leave him alone! Let him go! Let him go!
With about as much redeeming quality as a pair of Crocs that are 2 sizes too small. He's possibly the definitive 80s movie bully, complete with a shit-eating grin.
I'm gonna get that son of a bitch.
As a sci-fi adventure, the film has some fantastic visual effects from ILM, and they hold up better than a lot of the films from the period, where nearly every film had animated lightning, matte effects, and process shots. As a comedy, Back to the Future nails the fish-out-of-water aspect of a kid from 1985 trying to decipher life in 1955. One area where the film could have really been in trouble is where the younger version of Marty's mother latched onto her future son.
It's an absolute dream.
An issue successfully defused, but only fairly late in the film.
But when I kiss you, it's like I'm kissing my brother. I guess it doesn't make any sense, does it?
Before Back to the Future, time travel films hadn't done fantastic business in the US. But after it, nearly every time travel film would be compared to Back to the Future.
Are you seriously telling me that your plan to save the universe is based on Back to the Future?
including one of the biggest movies of all time, which, coincidentally, was also scored by Alan Silvestri, whose music for Back to the Future would become an iconic soundtrack, music that instantly implants visions into your mind of Doc Brown and Marty McFly. But over time, one star of the film really connected with audiences: the car.
If you're gonna build a time machine into a car, why not do it with some style?
Even before Back to the Future, the DeLorean was a car with a history. John DeLorean, whom the car was named after and not the other way around, was a star executive and engineer at General Motors, and he left to set up a company that would bear his name, John Cars, better known as the DeLorean Motor Company.
Let's land on him. We'll cripple his car.
Marty, he's in a 46 Ford, we're in a DeLorean. He ripped through us like we were tinfoil.
He set up a factory in Northern Ireland, and there his employees built a futuristic stainless steel bodied sports car, first released in 1981. The DeLorean had a rear-mounted engine that was about as powerful as a base model compact Hyundai is today, but it looked the business, and it had gull-wing doors. Of course, only around 9,000 units were produced in the 2 years of production, and by the time they were making Back to the Future, the car was already out of production and the company shut down. A DeLorean was considered a bit of a joke. But now, if you were to rank cool cars from film and TV, the DeLorean time machine would have to rank up there with the 1960s Batmobile and Bond's Aston Martin DB5.
Calvin, why do you keep calling me Calvin?
Well, that is your name, isn't it? Calvin Klein? It's written all over your underwear.
Back to the Future is a very quotable film. The jokes themselves aren't the funniest gags on their own, but they are so organic to the story and delivered with conviction that it always just works.
You don't just walk into a store and buy plutonium. Did you rip that off?
Even though the film is now further away from 1985 than it was from 1955, people still connect with its warm 50s vibe contrasting with the rundown mid-80s feel of Hill Valley.
Who's president of the United States in 1985?
Ronald Reagan.
Ronald Reagan? The actor? Ha! Then who's vice president? Jerry Lewis?
Obviously, parts of the film have dated, like the bit where Huey Lewis and the News are considered cool.
I'm afraid you're just too darn loud.
And were people in America really salivating over Toyota pickup trucks in the 80s? I don't know, maybe the cars somehow made people lightheaded. Judging by the way this one has been parked, I'm still trying to work out how they got it in there without carving huge divots in the garage wall.
What a nightmare.
The first film was successful, very successful,
Well, looky what we have here.
becoming the highest grossing movie of 1985. That was the sort of money that would ensure the Bobs would receive calls from studio executives asking for more. In part 2, we'll look at the sequel script that was so large it was split into 2 movies and shot back to back.
What happens to us in the future? What, do we become assholes or something?
If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, leave a comment below and check out some of our other videos.